Welcome to the Southern Stock Podcast. Today we have Phil Combs from Shelby, North Carolina. Phil is a racing historian and a collector whose family has deep roots in NASCAR, and he's preserving history through the Combs Family Museum. Also, Phil knew my dad, Stick Elliott, so there should be some good stories here to tell. Phil, welcome.
Well, first of all, thank you, Gina, for asking me to be on here. And my family, my dad, Roby Combs, went to work for NASCAR, him and my mom both, in 1952, and worked for him for 70 years. And at the time that they went to work for him, just so happened to be a time period when your dad came along, and the fact that both of them lived here in Shelby, basically, they just took a liking to Stick. And you got to realize I was young when all this was going on, but I remember so much about Stick from those days, because he used to come over to our house occasionally for different reasons. And at one time he was selling racing parts. You know, he had his own speed shop. And I'll never forget that my mother and dad had got connected up with the selling seat belts. And so Stick decided he wanted to start selling seat belts. So he actually bought my parents out of that deal. I'll never forget, he came over there and bought everything that they had when he opened up his speed shop. But Stick was such a cool guy that, and I made this, I hope you've seen this, when I did a Lost Speedways episode about the Cleveland County Fairgrounds, which you would say was Stick's home track, with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Matt Dillner. And I talked about Stick there, and I said, you know, Stick was, everybody in Shelby's got their own Stick Elliott story. And anybody that you talk to that's been around racing at all has some type of something that they've seen Stick, did something with Stick, or, you know, friends with Stick. But I don't know how I ever had time to sleep with all the people that says that they did stuff with him, because he was an amazing man in his era. And he was, you know, he was like, and I mentioned this, and I hope this don't offend you in any way. I said that, you know, he was like the Shelby Playboy. He had all the women. He had the fastest street car. He had the fastest race car. And everybody kind of wanted to be Stick Elliott, if you know what I'm saying. They did. He walked in, and I don't care where it was at. When he walked in, it's like everybody kind of stopped. You know what I'm saying? And he had everybody's full attention just by his appearance showing up wherever it might be. But I was very fortunate to get to see what I did of him. Like I said, my brother was a better friend with him than I was, because, you know, my brother was more of the same age. My brother's 11 years older than me, so he got to run around with him some in his days and go to the races with him. And he's got some amazing stories. But unfortunately, my brother's having some health issues now, and I wish he could have been on here with me, to be honest. But Stick was. You know, he started his racing career. I'm not telling you nothing you don't already know, but, you know, when he started with Jim Lay, he was just basically a kid. He was, but it didn't take long for people to realize how much talent he had. And then he had everybody and their brother wanting to drive the race car, and he worked his way up through the ranks to get to NASCAR. And, you know, that was everybody's dream then, and still most drivers' dreams today. You know, if you could do what your dream is, it would be make it to NASCAR. And the fact that he got to do that, he's no doubt the most famous race driver ever to come out of this county. And he made a mark here that it'll last forever and ever, because like I said, I built this museum for a reason that I hope you'll appreciate this, that I've got all my Stick Elliott scrapbook right here in front of me. But to me, this is one of the coolest things that your dad did, to get on in Time magazine. I mean, you could get in Time magazine. I don't care who you are. You're a pretty important guy. But here's the picture you see right there.
Oh, that's the picture with is that the one with he has like a Band-Aid or something on his face, doesn't he?
He's got a bandage on both sides of his head. I don't really know what had happened to him for that, you know, if he'd been in some type of accident or whatever. But, you know, this is a great story that they did about your dad, and Time magazine, and it's actually kind of about dirt track racing in the Carolinas, but they used him as the main driver that they talked about. But I've got a really cool scrapbook about Stick, and you know, I got several pictures of my dad and Stick, which I always thought that was kind of cool, because my dad thought a lot of him, and he really wanted him to be successful in NASCAR. He did, because that's a hard step to make out of running the Carolina dirt tracks to running at Daytona and Charlotte and all that. But Stick proved he could do it. He did, and it's just a neat part of my life to be able to have folks like yourself. And I had an incident happen here a while back where, I say incident, an experience. A guy pulled in my driveway, and I had no idea who he was. And he introduced himself, and he said his dad was Don Beam, and he used to race against Stick. And he said, I'm just curious, do you have anything about my dad here? And I said, yeah, I sure do. And, for me to be able to keep the memories alive since our parents are gone, that's one of the most important things that I do here. It is try to, and you've seen, I think, when you were here, there's a lot of people appreciate what I do. I've had visitors here from 37 states and 4 countries, and you can't believe how many people come in here and ask me, do I have anything about Stick Elliott?
That's amazing. You're preserving history, you're preserving legacy. You're doing an amazing job. And I have been to the museum. We're hoping we can maybe come back, if you don't mind, and film a little bit here.
The welcome mat is out for you anytime that you're in this area. I know you live a long way from here now, but yeah, you would appreciate some of the conversations that I've had with people about Stick, because the thing that I remember most about Stick was he didn't cut anybody any slack. He didn't. I mean, and people talk about Dale Earnhardt, the way Dale Earnhardt drove. He didn't. He drove a lot like his dad, Ralph, but he drove a lot like Stick. He did, because Stick come to win. And if you was in front of him and it took, roughing you up a little bit to get around you or whatever, he would do whatever he had to do. He would. But this Stick was something else. I tell you, I was at a funeral of Carl Smart, and he was Carl and Stick was really arch rivals. They were kind of buddies in a sense, but they were there to beat each other every week. And I'll never forget that I was at the race at Shelby Fairgrounds the night this happened, and it was on the last lap of the race. And I had this conversation with Chuck Piazza, too, that ended up winning the race. Stick was running side by side with Carl Smart for the lead on the white flag lap, and they come off of turn number 2, and they got into each other. Well, they ran down through the infield, and they ran off in a hole that's over in the infield to Cleveland County Fairgrounds. And literally, this is a big, huge hole. It's kind of like a spring, and they run off in that thing, and the cars, they go from running probably, at that point in time, it probably slowed down to 60 mile an hour, and they all of a sudden, bam, they're stopped, dead still. And they're sitting downwards in that bank. And I probably shouldn't even say this on here, but Carl told me this. He said he was really, it had knocked the wind out of him. And when he kind of got his senses, he said, Stick, are you all right? And Stick said, I think I am, but I think I've hurt my ribs or something like that. And here's the part I probably shouldn't say, but he said, I wish it had killed you, SOB.
That sounds about right.
But, you got to realize these guys, they were rivals. I mean, they were, but to hear Carl tell that story, but just stuff like that and for him to tell that story, and I was there to see that happen that night, it's just amazing. But I'll never forget too that Don Beam that I mentioned about. We went to the races at Hickory on Saturday night, and if it got rained out or whatever, and we was coming back to Shelby here at home, and they was racing Shelby Fairgrounds, we'd pull in there and stop and watch that. Well, this one particular night, we pulled in right as the main event was getting to start. And Stick Elliott was on the inside and Don Beam was on the outside. And so, those guys were both teammates of Toy Bolton for a short period of time. But I don't think Stick really liked having a teammate. I think Stick wanted most of his attention to be on his car, and which I can kind of understand that. So that didn't last long. It wasn't long before Stick was driving the car that Don drove on occasions. But, yeah, but I'll tell you something else I'm lucky at. I've been very lucky, and I mentioned this to you earlier through text messaging about Arthur Pinson. And Arthur Pinson, I'm going to show you this, if I can find this right quick. Arthur Pinson is still living. He's got to be in his 90s because he was an old man when this picture was made. But this picture is made at Harris Speedway, the first day that Robert Yates ever took a race car. And Robert Yates went on to have cars that Davey Allison drove and Kel Yarber. Well, this is Arthur Pinson right there, that man. And I'm going to try to get you lined up I'm going to try this today to get you lined up to meet him when you're here for the Stick Elliott race. But he built that car right there. And that's the car that your
57?
dad. Yeah, but at the time he built it, it was a silver number 35. Blue number had a blue number 35 on it. That's the car that your dad won his very first race at Harris Speedway, and this is Harris Speedway in the background when it was asphalt. And Richard Petty raced there. The biggest sporting event ever in the county of Harris, North Carolina, was when Richard Petty came there in 1964 and won a NASCAR race. Still this day, that's the biggest sporting event ever held in that county. Well,
Wow.
Stick was a regular there. But when he got hooked up with Arthur in this car, like I said, he won his first race. And then O.L. Nixon, that he drove for on dirt, bought this car from Arthur because he thought it was kind of cool to stick winning up there in it, and painted it up in his colors. And so Arthur still worked on the car. You can see he's walking back to it right there. But, just getting ready to – this is stuff that a lot of people was not around to see, but thank God I was. And I'm just glad now that there's pictures that I can show people like yourself and that – it was an amazing time in life. It was to get to see that stuff, and I'm friends with like Robert Presley and Dale Jarrett, and a bunch of these guys are the same age that I am, and we've known each other since we were kids, and we've talked about this numerous times about how good it was to be growing up in that era, the stuff that we got to see.
That's amazing. Well, I had questions here, but I just want to hear stories. To be honest, I mean, there's so many of these stories. Some of them I've heard, like the one where they're shooting at him, I think, and that was
Yeah.
on the Earnhardt Jr. on the
Right.
dirt track on the documentary. I don't know if you know much about that one or if you were around for that one, but I'm sure you have more stories.
I was not at that race the night that happened, but it doesn't surprise me because, when they went to that track that happened at, they were looked at like outsiders, and
Yeah.
and those folks didn't like for people to come in there. That's kind of like coming in and robbing the bank. They didn't like that. So, and with Stick's reputation of being a little bit of a rough driver, they didn't like that either. So when the way that deal went down, he might have roughed somebody up for the win, and then they just ended up, I think the story has it, Stick drove the car out of the racetrack and down the road, and they went and picked him up with a truck and trailer, like 5 miles from the racetrack. But
Yeah.
I can imagine driving that car down through a country road with no headlights or nothing,
No.
and at 12 o'clock at night, but he lived an amazing life. It's just amazing to me that he did all the stuff he did and drove all the races he did, and ended up with some strange thing like that what ended up taking his life. That's what got him at an early point of his life when he really kind of mellowed out a little bit, and had kids and was going to probably have what you might call a somewhat normal life, and then to have that happen to him. But I'll never forget going to the funeral and how sad that was. But to see that many grown men that was tore up about losing him, that was amazing. It really was.
Yeah, and I think in his funeral too, from what I understand, there was a race. Wasn't there a race in Atlanta? And I had heard from my mom that they had the funeral scheduled for whatever day, and they got a call from some of the drivers saying, "Could you please push the funeral back because we need to race in Atlanta?" And they drove up from Atlanta to be at the funeral, so she kind of postponed that.
I've heard that same story. I have. I can't remember that part of it, but personally, but I have heard that story, and it wouldn't surprise me because, it's just like Ned Jarrett that passed away the other day. I didn't get to go to his funeral. I was actually at a doctor's appointment myself and couldn't go. But I know that these guys, they kind of bury the hatchet, and it's one of those things that they might, Carl Smart might have been mad at Stick, but I guarantee you that he was tore up when he found out something had happened to Stick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, because they respect, that's from what I understand is that you might not like him, but you sure did respect him.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you remember first time you ever met him, Dad?
Oh, gosh. First time I ever met Stick Elliott. I would have been very, very, very little. So it would have probably been one of the times that he came to our house, because he, I sent you some pictures of my dad and Stick, and they were looking at a car that he bought from Speedy Thompson, and he raced it in NASCAR. And, he had to come over to my mom's house a lot of times to get his NASCAR license. See, my mom, I don't know this for a fact, but I would almost say that my mother sold him his first NASCAR license. I mean, good Lord, she sold Harry Gant his first NASCAR license, Morgan Shepherd. I can go down a list of probably 100 drivers, and Stick was probably one of those guys. And what you had to do, you come to our house and you filled out all the paperwork, and then you had to pay, I think it was like $25 back then to join NASCAR, which don't sound like a lot now, but that was a lot of money back then. And so then, you had to get your NASCAR license before you could race in NASCAR. And so I would say that's probably when I first met him.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot different now, right? There's a lot more tech and money. But I think, back then these guys were just driving for what, $200 purse or something just to put food on the table. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah, the purses back then, it was not a lot of money. It wasn't. And I'm sure Stick drove on a percentage of what he won when he drove for, say, Toy Bolton or O.L. Nixon. So if he didn't win, he didn't get anything. But,
Right.
I'll tell you something else funny I remember about Stick. Stick had uniforms that he wore late in his career, but most of the time he was racing here at Shelby Fairgrounds. He just had on a regular pair of pants, and a lot of times he wore a blue shirt. I remember that. He'd wear a light blue shirt. And but at the end of the night, that shirt would be where the seat belts were at would be red from the dust, And I thought he must have threw away a lot of shirts because I never seen him with a dirty shirt, that was stained with red dirt and sweat. You know what I'm saying? But he was always a sharp dresser. But if you're going to catch all the pretty girls, you got to be a sharp dresser.
I remember my mom said that she would, he definitely threw away a lot of shirts because she said he went through shirts quite a bit. But she said she'd make him, when he'd come home from the race, she'd say, "Don't you come in this house." She said she'd make him wash off outside with the hose pipe.
I've heard that very thing.
Yeah, because one time he would come home and he would get in he would just he's a big old guy too, and he would just sit in the bathtub, right? And then there was this red ring around the porcelain, and she would scrub it, and she couldn't get the dirt out. She's like, "You messed up that bathtub. You get outside, you wash off with the hose, and then you can come in the house."
I'm going to tell you something else that you might appreciate a little bit. There's a guy that's a friend of mine, and they call him Crazy Eddie. But he has bought the old Toy Bolton complex. He's bought the race shop, the store, the house that Toy built in 1970, I think it was, and they're redoing all this place. And he's wanting. He called me the other day, and he's wanting me to get up all the pictures that I can of anything that was made at that race shop. And he's going to do like a little Stick Elliott shrine, Stick Elliott Toy Bolton per se shrine in the store, which I thought was very cool. And he's even gone as far as they're going to make it a 76 station again. That's what it was when Toy first opened it up. But I'll never forget, my brother and I would go down there a lot. And I was young. I was probably 12, 13, maybe years old. And we'd go down there a lot of times, if we didn't go to the race on Saturday night that they were racing, we'd go on Sunday just to find out how they did and all that, So I spent a lot of time at that place. And that place has got a lot of memories too. But, once they get all that finished and fixed, I'll get a hold of you and we might have a little reunion down there sometime to see that place. But, Stick won over 100 races with one car out of that shop. And that's pretty, they call it the tank because it was a white 55 Chevrolet, and Roger Byers was the crew chief on it, and Toy owned it. And, it was built heavy duty. I mean, it had all these bars and everything welded to it, but it was like a rolling tank. It was. But that's the shop that car raced out of.
That's amazing. And that was his favorite one, right? The tank.
I've always heard it was. If he won the most races in it, that was probably his favorite car ever. But but Toy, he loved him some Stick Elliott. I'm telling you.
It sounds like a lot of people did.
Oh yeah, and he. He was Stick's ace in the hole because Toy was a great car builder, and he could build them tough enough to stand Stick because it took a good car for Stick because he'd get everything it had in it out of it, and a lot of times if it wasn't good, it would break. And Toy's cars were pretty much at one point in time unbreakable, and that's why Stick won so many races driving for him.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the connection with the Earnhardts? Because I know, like Ralph, Dad drove Ralph's car, right?
Yeah, I was I was very lucky to get to see Ralph Earnhardt race at two tracks mostly, Hickory and Asheville. Now I did see him race a little bit at Shelby, but when he used to come to Hickory, at Hickory Speedway, we had to be there at 4:30 in the afternoon. You know, that was kind of unwritten rule that my mom, she had to have the place set up where she sold the pit passes for the drivers, and so we would get there, you know, usually around 4:15, something like that. Well, Ralph Earnhardt was already at the racetrack when we got there every time, and his car was unloaded. It was sitting there, and he would be sitting on the back of his truck. And when he seen my mother pull in, he would come out and get his pit pass. And Ralph, he knew the system. I mean, you got to realize my mom and dad had been friends with him since 1952. And anytime they were at a racetrack, I mean, it was like family. And Ralph would get in my mother's car. This is where she signed the drivers in. They didn't have a building. She did it out of her car. They had a four-door Pontiac Bonneville. And she sat in the front seat, and she had a helper that sat in the back seat on the right-hand passenger side. And that's where you come and got your pit pass. Well, Ralph Earnhardt, when he'd get his pit pass, he'd go around to the back of the car and get in the back seat. And he knew that my mother had a box full of all kind of sandwich stuff and a cooler with meat and everything in it. And he'd fix him a sandwich and something to drink and eat in the back of that Pontiac before he went back in the racetrack. Because, see, Ralph was smart. That's a meal he didn't have to buy. You know what I'm saying? And back then, you know, every little bit helped. And then a lot of times when he raced in Asheville, I had people tell me the story that he would stay with friends up there at their house the night of the race, after the race, rather than getting a motel room. So Ralph,
wow.
he was a penny pincher back then anyhow. But Ralph mainly got connected up with Stick when Ralph, at the end of his career. And I'll never forget it. It was at Shelby Fairgrounds. The last time I ever seen Ralph Earnhardt, as a matter of fact. And Dale was racing there that night too. Dale had a little Ford Falcon, yellow and black Ford Falcon #8, and he ran it in the rookie division. And then Ralph was running the car in the late models, but Stick was driving it. And one thing I remember, they changed the gear in it that night, which you very seldom ever seen Ralph Earnhardt work on his car at the track, because he had it ready when he got there. His old saying was, you work on them at home, you race them at the track. And I've never hardly ever seen him raise the hood on a car. But they changed the gear in that car for Stick that night for some reason. But you know, at that point in time, Ralph's career was almost over. You know, he died not long after that, and that's when Dale kind of took over the racing operation. But I never got to see those guys be around each other, but that one time that I can remember at the Shelby Fairgrounds, as far as being together. Usually they're trying to beat each other.
Trying to beat each other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there a track you think Dad liked better than the others, or a particular race that he liked better?
You know, I always thought, and this is just my own personal opinion, I always thought he liked to win in Shelby more than anywhere else because it's in front of the hometown people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was his hometown, and he liked to make a good showing here. But, you know, they raced at the Rutherford County Fairgrounds on Friday night, and then at Shelby, and then at Harris and on Sunday, and then he would go to Antioch sometimes up at, it was actually called at that point in time Lenore Burt Speedway. That's where the shooting took place, by the way. And but yeah, I would probably say Shelby, if I was guessing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder what that looked like. I just hear stories of my mom just saying like he would come in late. He was always on the road. You know, it was one race after another. There was he had that. What, I don't know what it was. It was like some sort of RV or something, right? He had all decked out. And travel around in that.
I think Stick was one of the first to get something like that. You know, that was kind of in the beginning stages of that, of people getting a RV type deal to travel in. I remember seeing the first one I ever seen, Bobby Allison had it, and then, you know, some of the NASCAR guys started getting them, and then Stick got him one and to travel in, which was a whole lot more convenient than traveling in a car. It was, yeah. But yeah, Stick, he, you know, if he would, I would have loved to have seen what would have happened if he would have lived a longer life, you know, because I really think that, I think he would have probably had his own race team, because I'll never forget this happening. I used to go by Barry Wright's shop, and, you know, Barry Wright now is a famous car builder, but Barry was already in the racing with Butch Bowen, to a certain extent with a rookie car. And so I used to stop by Barry's. He had a front end alignment shop in a garage on Marion Street, right off of Marion Street. And I worked on Marion Street at UPS when I was 16 years old. And so I'd go by Barry's and hang out until time to go to work a lot of days, because they'd have race cars in there and stuff, and that was just a cool place to hang out. So I'll never forget walking in one day, and there sits a late model car sitting there. And so I thought, well, that's strange. I hadn't seen this car in here before. And then the phone rings, and Barry answers it, and he says, Barry writes, and the guy's called him about lining up his front end. And he said, I'm not working on any more passenger cars effective today. He said, I took a job keeping up Stick Elliott's race car. And from that point on, he did not work on passenger cars. And I'll tell you something else happened. Stick had got this car from Mike Duval. And so he had got somebody to go to Charlotte that day. The same day that I'm talking about, he came in there a little bit later, and they had brought a set of headers for it from Tom Pistones. And the headers were the wrong headers. And once Stick realized that, he took one of those headers and he threw that thing across the room. I thought, God almighty, I couldn't believe he did that. But boy, he was mad because it didn't fit, but it was
he had a little bit of temper sometimes, I heard. But I also heard he was a jokester. Like, he used to stuff
I never,
the hot dog wieners in the back of
I never was around him as far as playing a joke on somebody, but I could probably see that he was a good jokester, to some of those guys he raced with. But I just never got to see that side of him. I really didn't.
No, yeah. How do you think he contributed to racing in maybe ways that people don't realize? People that don't know him.
Well, his contribution to Shelby was that there's a lot of folks that probably got into racing, and I'll use one of them as Johnny Bowen. And Johnny that's got the Stick Elliott Chevelle. And it's a lot of folks that played baseball because they like Hank Aaron. You know what I'm saying? Right. I just think there's a lot of folks that came into racing about the time that we were young, and me and Johnny are the same age, matter of fact, that they looked at Stick as a hero, and that's why they got into racing. And I would almost bet you that if you could go down a list of people that's been involved in racing around Shelby and ask them, say, who's the one person you looked up to the most? Stick would probably be the top of the list, or 8 out of 10 of them probably.
Yeah.
And I would say, if you have an effect on somebody's life enough that they do something that you did, that's a pretty big effect.
It is. Yes, it is. I'd like to see, what it looked like at the tracks. I mean, I wrote a lot of that in my book just based on stories and things that I've heard of, the beauty queens were always flirting with him, and he kind of liked all the attention. But do you remember any of that? Like, what did it look like with the fans there? Were they yelling, they screaming? I'm sure some of them didn't like him and some of them did. And
yeah. Well, I was talking to you about my brother a little while ago, and I'm going to give you another great Stick Elliott story. My brother, it's kind of one of these things. A lot of kids follow in their parents' footsteps. Whatever their parents do, they do. Well, my brother, at a young age, he had done a little bit of flagging, but not in a real race up at Hickory Speedway. They had qualifying up there on Friday nights, and my brother would go up there and flag that. But you didn't have to do anything with the green, the white, and the checkered, So Clyde Dedman, who owned the Hobby Racing Association, he hired my brother to flag a race one night at the Rutherford County Fairgrounds up in Spindale. So the night that we went up there, we went, and my brother's 50.
Let's start that story again.
Yeah, I had a phone call. I had to block it. But anyhow, we get to the Rutherford County Fairgrounds, and Stick was racing there that night. And so Stick was leading the race, and it came down to a green-white checkered. Well, my brother, when Stick got over in the third turn, Stick jumped the gun and started before he was supposed to. But my brother went ahead and threw the green flag. Because my brother and Stick were big buddies. And so when he threw the green flag, Stick ran off and left Billy Bishop, who was in second. And I guess Billy thought that he would throw the caution and make him redo it, but he didn't. So Stick come around and got the white flag, and then he got the checkered flag and won the race. So, and he had a lead by, God, 30 or 40 yards. So Billy Bishop got so mad about this, he pulls his car down at the flag stand, gets out of his car, and climbs up the fence up on the flag stand where my brother's at. And here comes the police and about 100 fans. And honest to goodness, I thought they were going to kill my brother.
Oh, God.
You know, the people that didn't like Stick were booing and raising Cain. And Billy Bishop had a lot of fans too, even back then. And so Billy Bishop's fans surrounded the bottom of the flag stand. So, like I say, it was not a pretty situation. I tell you what it did. It scared my brother so bad he never flagged another race the rest of his life.
Really?
He didn't. But you know what saved him? Stick Elliott himself walked out there on that flag stand and told them people to get the hell away from there and got my brother down off the flag stand.
That's awesome.
Wow.
He
That's
did.
awesome.
Yes, sir. I mean, he Stick went out there himself and pretty much single-handed did away with that melee and got my brother down off the flag stand.
Wow.
And I was there to witness it. It was like a mob scene, to be honest. It was.
Wow.
But yeah, that sure ended my brother's flagging career in one night.
Wow. Yeah, I always heard Dad was a stand-up man, you know? Like,
Well,
he
I
was
don't think
loyal.
many people, you know, I'm not saying that there wasn't somebody out there that would have fought him, but you know, as big as Stick was and the reputation he had, not many people wanted to tangle with Stick. They didn't.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think most of them had better sense.
Yeah, he was a big guy.
He was. Oh yeah.
And I like the story that's in that Time magazine that you referenced earlier, where I guess Dale Earnhardt was at the track and he had bumped Dad out or spun him out or something, whatever the story was. And then the whole crew kind of came over and was, you know, had all their tools in their hands and kind of, you know, I think Dale thought they were all coming after him. And then Dad just smiles and says, "You might make a driver yet."
Yeah. It's funny, I got a text message from the guy that's redoing the old store and the shop. He just texted me a thing, won't know am I coming over there today. I told him I'm going to ride over there this afternoon and check it out. He's so excited about this, Gina. You can't imagine. He's like a kid building a new model car or something, except he's building a store and redoing all this stuff. So
That's amazing.
yeah, he just sent me
And
a
that's
text.
in Shelby?
Yeah.
That's going to be in Shelby too? Oh, I can't wait to see it.
It's on Highway 18 South out of Shelby, and it's what's amazing is that everything looks basically like it used to look. It does,
Wow.
as far as the race shop and the house and the store and all.
Wow. You definitely have to have some
So I
sort
can
of
see that.
grand opening or something, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they will. Yeah,
That'd be
I'm sure
amazing.
They will. I'll let you know when it is.
That'd be
I've actually got-
amazing.
I don't have a great number of pictures that's inside the shop, and unfortunately, this is not a picture of Stick, but this is a cool picture. But this is a picture that was in a paper. Let me take it out of the sleeve so you can see it. But Toy Bolton, this is Toy Bolton right here. That's
Okay.
Toy leaning in the car. All right,
Yeah.
this is Mike Humphries, who Stick kind of took Mike Humphries under his wing. You might say a little bit. Mike lived in Gaffney. His dad was A.E. Humphries that ran Cherokee Speedway. That's
Yep.
Roger Byers, that was Stick's chief mechanic right there. And that's Charlie Blanton,
Oh,
who
wow.
was another one of Stick's big rivals. Well, they're getting this car ready to take to Daytona. And they did a story about him in the Shelby paper. But that picture is made in the shop that Stick worked out of.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
a cool picture. We got to get a copy of that next time we come into
Yeah,
town.
I can put a little. If you send us a little picture of it, just take a picture of it. We could put it up on the screen. Along
All right,
with this.
I'll be glad to.
Yeah,
it
that'd be
says-
great.
Says in Daytona, it says Toy Bolton left, veteran stock car builder who lives on Highway 18 South. Drivers Mike Humphries from Gaffney, Charlie Blanton from Gaffney, mechanic Roger Byers from Shelby. Roger lived in a mobile home right beside the shop, a single wide mobile home, preparing for starting positions in the Grand American 500 race on Friday. They departed on Monday after finishing working on the two Camaros. And a guy named Lim Lynch, who was a good friend of mine, a photographer in Shelby, he's the one that made that picture. But you know,
Man.
it's just so cool because I was good friends with all these guys. Now Charlie Blanton, the guy standing there with the white jacket on, I went and seen Charlie not long before he passed away. He lived in Gaffney. I had some stuff. He ended up winning that race, by the way, in '73. He won the race. and that was his biggest win ever, driving for Toy. And so I went down to see Charlie to get him to sign some stuff for my museum. And when I walk up on the front porch of his double-wide mobile home, he's got a liquor still, a working liquor still on the front porch.
No way.
So I go in the house, and there's 5 quarts of moonshine sitting on the kitchen table. So I didn't say anything about it because it wasn't none of my business. So I got him to sign all my stuff, and I'd been there for maybe 20 minutes. I said, Charlie, can I use your restroom a second? He said, oh, yeah. I said, it's the second door on the left down there. So I'm walking down the hall, and I wasn't being nosy or anything, but I just kind of glanced over when I went by the first door, and there was no furniture in there. The whole room, from the floor to the ceiling, was stacked up with these little cardboard flats with the quart mason jars wrapped in plastic, you know, and it was moonshine. That's what he was selling, as moonshine jars. And so they're just like the ones on the kitchen table. So I went back in there, and I said, Charlie, I said, how about selling me a quart of that moonshine? I said, I don't want it to drink. I want it to go in your display at my museum. He said, I'm not going to sell you none of that moonshine. He said, I'll give you a quart. And so he said, bring me a quart over here. So he signed the lid, Charlie Blanton, number 93. And he said, I'll tell you about the moonshine since you asked me. And I didn't really ask him. He kind of volunteered. He said, you know, I draw a check from York Electric, and said, I draw my Social Security. He said, that moonshine is my spending money. He said, I sell it for $25 a quart. And he said, I can sell as fast as I can make it.
Wow. Still.
Yeah.
Did you try it?
I still got it. I never took the lid off of it. It's in his display out here, but yeah, I'll tell you what, if you ever come here, we'll open it up and try it. How's that?
Okay, there you go.
But I will show you this.
Knock me out.
I will show you this. Let me get my refrigerator around here, get the door open. I've got a pretty cool collection of moonshine that people have given me. If you can see.
Wow.
Can you see that?
Yeah, I see it. You got a lot. Oh my God.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm like the Baskin Robbins of moonshine. Yeah. I think everybody thinks I'm an alcoholic because a lot of the races that I go to announce, people bring me moonshine. And
but do you enjoy it? Do you like drinking it?
Well, I don't drink that much unless on a special occasion or something. But there's a guy that unfortunately he's passed away now, but he used to get this really famous moonshiner in Tennessee, and his name was Coot Benson. And he made this amazing lemonade moonshine. And it didn't even taste like it had alcohol in it. But if you drank 1 cup, about that size right there of it, you better be hunting you a place to either sit down or lay down.
It's like jet fuel, right? That's what I've heard.
It was amazing.
I've never had it, but I've heard that it's really stiff.
I got a joke, and I probably shouldn't say this on here either. I used to tell people, especially females that come here, I said, you know, old country music singer Wade Hayes had that song, Tequila Makes Your Clothes Fall Off.
Yeah.
I said, you let them drink some of this moonshine, they'll be jumping out of them.
That's probably about right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Good.
This is good. Thank you so much for sharing all these stories.
You know, I feel so blessed. I do. I mean, I'm a very blessed human being that I've been able to do what I have done my whole life and meet so many cool people. And you know, Facebook has opened up a gazillion different opportunities for stuff, just all over the country. You know, I've had visitors here from far away as Australia, all through Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It's been amazing. And you know, and I'll tell you this again, it's amazing how many people, and I wish I had more stuff, and I've looked for it, and I've searched for it, and I tell you what we've had. We used to have a pillow that was in my mother's basement, just a regular, it looked like a pillow you'd sleep on, except it was brown, and it had Stick Elliott, number 18, and checkered flags, and I have no idea what happened to that pillow. It got gone sometime, but Stick Elliott stuff is hard to find because there never really was a whole lot of it, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Somebody reached out to me on Facebook. I can't remember the guy's name, but said that he had an old, I guess the sign that they would put where his car would go, like in pit row.
Oh, his pit sign.
Yeah, the pit sign. And he said he had the Stick Elliott pit sign. He sent me a picture of it on Facebook, and he said, do you want it? And before I could even answer, like 2 other people said, if she don't want it, I'll take it. And I'm like, no, I want it.
Yeah, well, that's good you got it. I'll tell you one thing I do have that I'm really proud. In 1966, they had a NASCAR race at Hickory Speedway, And I used to collect decals, and I still collect racing decals to this day. That's the first thing I ever collected. Now I collect over 300 things. And so I had asked Tiny Lund, and if he had any decals. And he said, I don't have any decals. He says, well, I got a picture I'll give you. And they had just made a movie about him called Hard Charger. And I follow him back to his truck, and I sell him a paper. You know, I'm selling papers at the races in. And I sold him a Southern Motor Racing paper, and then he gives me that picture, and then he autographs it. Well, then here comes Richard Petty, Ned Jarrett, Tiger Tom Pistone, and I got your dad to sign that picture that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so the signatures are all there on the.
Yeah, they're all on this one paper. It's in my
amazing.
museum. But you know something strange? How he signed it that day? He didn't sign it Stick Elliott. He put Gene rather than Stick.
Oh, that's strange.
And I don't know why he did that, but he did. He put Gene Elliott.
Oh, Gene Elliott. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder why he did that.
I have no idea, but I mean, it was his signature. I remember plain as day, but he didn't put Stick.
Wow, that's interesting.
But that's the
I gotta
only
see
autograph. That's the only autograph I've got of him.
Wow.
You
Yeah, we
can't-
were looking for his autograph the other day. Josiah was asking me, did I know what it looked like? I said, well, I've got a couple photos. It's kind of messy, you know.
But I actually had, and you'll appreciate this, you know, being his daughter. Billy Wade was a NASCAR driver that got killed in 1965 at Daytona doing a tire test. His daughter drove to my house from Houston, Texas, and brought me his racing collection and all the stuff that she had. And I had never seen her dad's autograph anywhere until another friend of mine. I do a radio show in Spartanburg once a month on Fox Sports, and I'm the co-host on that with Perry Allen Wood. He's the host of it. And Perry had Billy Wade's autograph from when he raced at Spartanburg one time. But I'd love to see another Stick Elliott autograph. I would, if you ever see anybody's got one, to see how it's. I'd really love to have something. I mean, I've got this paper in here in my scrapbook. If I can find it right quick, and I'll show it so you guys. You know, there's this one that everybody and their brother's seen, and I'm sure this is it.
Yeah, I've got that.
Yeah, that's the one that we've seen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty cool. It is.
Yep.
I remember seeing him race that very car. I do. And this picture that you see right here is made down at that house that I'm telling you about that I'm going to this afternoon.
Yeah.
So-
That's that
so-
blue shirt, too. That's a blue shirt he's got on.
Sitting in the backyard.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I've got several of these postcards. This got, see, best wishes, Stick Elliott.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that one I've got, too. That one I've seen. That's yep.
Yeah. But, you know, to be a man, he had a pretty good handwriting, because a lot of men just scribble down something, but that's pretty good. And and basically, if you look at these two autographs, that one and this one together, both of them look legitimate compared to what mine is on that paper. I just wish you would have signed it Stick rather than Gene for whatever reason. Yeah.
But the fact that he signed it Gene almost makes it a little bit more special because it's
It does, in a sense, yeah. I'm gonna tell you, I work with a lot of kids in racing, and I used to advise the moms and dads, and I still do, and especially the ones that are going to make it big time. I tell them about telling their kid that signature is their stamp for life. Do you know who's got the two most unique autographs of anybody that I've ever met got their autograph?
Who's that?
Ric Flair, the wrestler, and Richard Petty. And I've got a lot. Ric Flair signed a lot of stuff for me. I got in my museum, and Rick, he takes his time. You know, he don't just scribble something. And Richard Petty's the same way, but you can tell that Stick did the same thing basically.
You still know Richard Petty? You still in contact with him?
I haven't talked to him lately, but I'm going to try to get a hold of him soon, because I've been working on my Richard Petty room in my museum, which is actually it's in my house now. I ran out of room where I had it and had to move it in here, and so I've about got it completed. I'm working on the A.J. Foyt section that's also in there. As soon as I get it finished, I'm going to try to get Dale Lemon and Richard to come up here one day.
Oh, that's amazing. That's awesome. That's really cool. And are you having the reunion this year in November again, weather permitting?
October the 11th.
October the 11th. Oh, I got to write that down. Am I invited?
You're always invited. Yeah.
Thank you. October the 11th. I think I'm going to be in town. Oh, the North Wilkesboro Hall of Fame thing is the 15th.
Yep.
So I'll be in
It's
town.
it's the week after that. It's the
Okay.
17th.
I'm going to be in town in October a lot then. All
My
right.
deal is on Sunday, and I've always had it on Sunday because I have so many racers that come to mind that a lot of them are racing somewhere on Saturday. They can't come for that reason. So that's why I do mine a little different than a lot of people do for that reason, and it's worked out great. So, and I have a church service, and then I recognize. I'm gonna tell you something sad. Just hold on one second.
Okay.
I do a memorial service, and you might remember this. I do a memorial service, and you might not have been here when I have a church service from 11:30 to 12, and from 12 to 12:30 I have a memorial service, and I recognize all the people that I'm friends with has passed away since the last show that I had, and I do this every year, and I keep a list, and this is hard to believe to look at this. This is how many people.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
It starts out with Greg Biffle, and from then on, it's just been one after another, and I've lost, about 40 friends since the last thing that I had here. But the thing is, a lot of these people that's on this list, their families know what I do for the memorial service, and they come to be part of it. They do to represent,
Wow.
and whoever it might be.
Yeah, you're keeping their memory alive. It's very nice.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a wonderful thing that you're doing. It's wonderful.
Well,
Well, I look forward to being there on October the 11th. That was a great event last year. You had a lot of people
I
there.
think you were a little surprised at how many people were glad to see you.
I was surprised at how many people were glad to see me, yes. And how
Yeah.
many people had so many stories of my dad,
Well, like I said, everybody's got one. I don't care
Yeah.
who it is. If it's somebody that's involved in racing, it's either they seen it or they were there the night after.
Oh,
Got another call.
got another call.
He'll be back.
Saying, That's the guy
There he
that
is.
that's the guy that cuts my grass, and he's calling me about something. So I'll
That's
call
okay.
him back.
This has been great, Phil. I think we got a lot of good material. This has been a really good
Yeah,
podcast.
I had one more question for you,
Yeah,
Phil.
go
So I came across this. I'm a diecast collector myself, and I came across this guy back where I came. I'm originally from North Dakota, and he had all these diecasts from the '60s, the '70s, and I was always wondering. I've seen one online, couldn't track down who owned it, but I found one Stick Elliott diecast. Have you ever come across a Stick Elliott diecast?
I've never seen a Stick Elliott diecast. I have seen model cars, and but I've never seen a diecast. What was it diecast of? What kind of car?
It was his 18 car that he raced in the Grand National. It was the white one with the red 18 on it.
I've never seen it.
And it was definitely it was a custom made one for sure. But I thought it was very interesting that whoever made it took the time to print out all those unique decals and then make it. I thought that was very interesting.
It is. That's very interesting.
But I have no idea who it was, and it was sold at an auction.
The one
about 10
thing
years
that I'm
ago.
proud of, though, and I'm kind of jumping off what your question or comment was, but I do want to say this. I'm proud that through all the years of changing promoters and changing this and changing that, Jenna, you can't believe how many people I've seen that they ran one or two or maybe three memorial races for somebody, and then they just forget about them for whatever reason. There's never another race, and it's like, well, that's the end of that. But there's two drivers that stick. Stick and Bobby Isaac. They have the Bobby Isaac Memorial at Hickory and the Stick Elliott Memorial at Cherokee, and those two races are kind of like the main. There's two or three at every track has two or three big races a year, but the Stick Elliott race. And I made this comment a long time ago. If you race at Cherokee Speedway and you don't have a Stick Elliott Memorial trophy in your trophy case, your racing career is not complete.
That's amazing. It
Yeah.
is amazing how many years is it now? It's been going on. It started what?
Oh gosh, 40. Gosh, I don't know. I'll be
It started
afraid.
soon after, right? Like soon after he passed, like
Yeah.
not too long. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you got to give kudos to Lenny Buff that runs the track now, that owns it, and all the way back through the David Perrys and Ernie Elkins and everybody else that I've got some cool Stick Elliott shirts out in my museum, memorial shirts that they used to they'd make up a different shirt. They
Yes.
didn't do it every year, but maybe every 5 years they'd have a shirt, and I've got some really cool Stick Elliott memorial shirts out here.
Gina, we're gonna have to stop by for sure.
Yeah, we have to stop by. I have a couple of the old shirts too. They're really colorful, right? They're usually
Oh
really
yeah, they are. They're
Yeah.
great looking shirts. Actually, a guy that I'm a good friend with, I'm gonna see him this weekend. I announced at Tri-County Speedway now, and a guy named Dale Duckworth, I think, made those best looking shirts, and he always does real flashy colors and all that. So,
Yeah.
and he did an excellent job on those Stick Elliott shirts.
That's
I'd
awesome.
love to take a look at them because we're creating our own merch for Gina. Of course, the whole the campaign for Southern Stock and for the memorial race coming up, because we're gonna have a little booth set up, and we made these hats. I think I love seeing I love retro artwork too. I think I'd like to see more of that. So I would love to see.
Hey,
those.
let me tell you guys something before we get off here. If you haven't already done so, all you got to do is it's very simple. Just Google Combs Family Museum.
Yep.
All right. After you Google that, it'll tell you a little something about it, and then you scroll down. It's one of the very first videos that it posts. And Stapleton 42 came here a year ago in March, and they videoed for like 6 hours and 15 minutes, and they edited it down to 1 hour and 56 minutes. But it's got a little overview of everything in my museum, and if you get a chance, it's almost like going and watching a movie, a 2-hour movie. But if you get a chance, watch it a little at a time, and it's very interesting to see. I think I even watch it myself sometimes, just because it was kind of like it made my head spin the day we did it. We covered so much stuff in 6 hours, but I'd love for both you guys to watch that.
I was just watching. Actually, this is the video that I sent to Gina. I was just watching it right before we hopped on, and I obviously didn't get to finish it, but now I'm gonna for sure go
Yeah.
through the
Well, I
whole
appreciate
thing.
that.
Yeah, we did it. Yeah, he just sent that to me. He said, "Have you seen this?" I said, "No, I haven't seen it, but now I'm
I
gonna."
texted her and I said we should get a private tour because I can
Yeah.
get some video behind the scenes of you guys having
Yeah,
a conversation.
you're welcome
and
to
see.
anytime
We'd
if
love
you want.
that.
That's for sure.
Are you going?
Amazing.
Did you decide if you're going to the memorial race, Phil?
I've got to look at my schedule. I don't know if we're racing at Tri-County that night or not, but if we're not, I'll always go to it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And maybe we could get together with you at the museum while I'm there too, if you have
I hope-
time.
I hope
And
you
you're
can.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be in touch, and we'll figure out a schedule or something that works for you.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, Phil, thank you so much for being on the Southern Stock podcast today. This was
I'm sorry about the
amazing.
beginning. I did
No.
everything
No,
just like I was
no
supposed
worries
to.
at all.
You did
Thank
great.
you so much for
did
taking
great.
the time. We really appreciate it. We love hearing the stories, and I'm sure there's many more that we're very excited to hear.
Well, I'm sure
in the
about the
future.
time that we go off here, I'll think of something else that I probably should have jotted down some notes or something. But
Maybe at some point we'll just do part 2, huh?
yeah, the thing about it is, I appreciate what you're doing for Stick. I do, and it just makes me proud that you think enough of what he did to do what you've done. It would be so cool if Earl Owensby was still in good shape, and Earl Owensby was a movie maker here in Shelby, and I always thought that it would have been cool for a movie to have been made about Stick's life, and it really would.
That's the goal. We're working
Yeah,
on
that's
it.
what
I had,
we're working on it.
I had someone from Fox reach out. That was back in December of last year to request the manuscript, and then I had someone else out in California, a screenwriter, to reach out as well. I haven't heard back from them, but I know they kind of move slow sometimes through those things. But that's the goal. Is like either a Netflix series or a movie. I think it would be amazing.
Oh,
I
it
got
would be
Josiah
amazing.
working on a trailer.
Yeah,
it-
I'm gonna be working on a trailer for it. So
Yeah, that would be an amazing movie, no doubt.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something else. I know you've heard about Linda Vaughn, right?
Yes, I know the name.
Linda Vaughn was Miss Hurst Shifter. And
Yeah.
if you'll hold on a second, let me go in here.
I know that name.
Linda Vaughn, she was one of the original beauty queens in NASCAR back in the day. Let's see if I can show you this. You see that picture?
Yes, the blonde.
Yes.
That's me and Linda Vaughn.
Okay.
In 1982. All right, all this stuff is Linda Vaughn. If you can see all this,
Oh, wow.
that's
Okay.
Linda. That's her. Well, Stick at one time had a fling with Linda Vaughn.
Uh-oh. I knew where that was going.
Yeah,
Of course
and
you did.
and Stick brought her to Shelby and introduced her to George Blanton, who was the president of the First National Bank. So I got to be good friends with Linda back in the 80s. And I asked her one time, I said, Linda, do you remember Stick Elliott? She said, Lord, yes, I remember Stick Elliott. She said, he backed into my mama's car at her house one time.
That's awesome.
I'm serious. Said it Stick backed into his mama's car, to her mama's car.
How do you
But,
do that?
I have no idea. I guess she was from Dalton, Georgia.
Oh,
And
wow.
I guess for whatever reason they had went to see her mom for something, and when they were there, Stick backed into her car.
That's great. That's
Linda,
great.
I tell you what, you ought to do. Linda is still living,
Oh, wow.
and she's on Facebook. You should
Okay.
send her a message and tell her that you're Stick Elliott's daughter, and ask her. Said Phil Combs told me about my dad backing into your mom's car.
You're fling with my dad.
Sheena, I think we have our next guest picked out.
Yeah.
That'd be really.
Now
That'd
listen,
be really interesting.
if you could get Linda Vaughn on here to do a podcast about Stick, you probably get the X-rated version of the Stick Elliott story.
I'm not sure I want the X-rated version.
Yeah. Well,
I've heard I think almost every other story at the reunion, your
the
last reunion.
statute of limitations, the statute of limitations is over now, I'm sure. But see, that's kind of one of the things that I told about that I didn't say when I was doing Dale Jr.'s thing that I said on here about. I started to say something about that on there. I thought, no, I mean, he's got daughters and all this stuff now. I shouldn't bring all that stuff up, but it is a part of his life that, you know what I'm saying?
It is, and I heard a lot of stories. Somebody was telling me some story about where they stole some stuff out of somebody's garage or something. I don't even remember who. It might have been, no, it wasn't Earl. I forget who it was. Pat. Might have been Pat.
Oh, really? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll tell you someone else that you could probably get if he's really he really helped Stick a lot at one point in time in his racing career was Tiger Tom Pistone.
Okay.
I don't know if you could get
He sponsored his car because his name was on his car a lot of the times.
well, yes, and he drove for Tiger for a little while. Tiger kept the car up that he drove.
Okay.
And I'll never forget, we were at a race one night we were at Metrolina Speedway, and Freddie Smith won the race, and Stick ran second, driving Tiger Tom's car. And Tiger was wanting to protest him for something, but they never did get together on the protest. But yeah, Tiger was a big Stick Elliott fan too.
That's awesome. We have to reach out to some of these people.
And he's 96 years old.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, my dad would be in his 90s now, were he alive, right? I mean, because he was a good deal older than my mom, too.
But you need to do that today. You need to send Linda Vaughn a message and tell her. You need to say, tell her that you talked to me and I told you about that deal about Stick backing into her mom's car.
I'll do it. I'll reach out. Just as soon as we get off here, I'll do it.
All right.
Phil, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you again.
We'll be in touch, and I'll see you hopefully in August.
Okay, and I hope that what I've done is okay.
More than okay.
Well, and again, I appreciate both you guys having me on here, and just keep doing what you're doing. Your dad will be very proud.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil.
Okay.
We'll talk soon. Okay. Bye.
Okay, sounds good. Have a good day.
You too.